$4.75. That's what the coffee costs from the machine by the loading dock. You know this because you buy it every night at 11:40, right before your shift starts. Same machine. Same button. Same lukewarm cup that burns your tongue if you drink it too fast. You work nights at a bottling plant outside Tulsa. Third shift. The kind of job where the noise never really stops, just changes pitch. You check labels. You check seals. You watch a line move bottles past you at a speed that used to scare you and now just feels like Tuesday. Your paycheck lands every other Friday, $14 an hour. After taxes, it comes out to about $940 every 2 weeks. You do the math without trying. You've done it so many times that the math does itself now. Rent is $610, a one-bedroom above a laundromat. The dryer downstairs runs until midnight, and you've stopped hearing it. Groceries run close to $90 if you're careful. Gas for the truck, another $60. What's left isn't nothing. It's just small enough that it doesn't ask to be spent. It asks to be watched. One night in October, you're standing at that coffee machine, and your phone buzzes. A coworker, a guy named Wes from the packaging line, is showing everyone a screenshot. He made $400 on some stock overnight. He's grinning like he invented gravity. You don't say anything, you just nod. But something sticks. Not the $400, the confidence. The way he talked about it was as if it belonged to him already, as the money had simply been waiting for him to notice it. You go home that morning and you don't sleep right away. You open your banking app instead, $612 sitting in savings. It's been sitting there for 8 months, doing exactly nothing. Really earning something like 11 cents a month in interest. You never noticed that number before. Now you can't stop looking at it. You're not doing this because you feel brave. You're doing it because you're tired. Tired of watching numbers sit still. You open a brokerage account on your phone at 6 in the morning, still in your work boots. It asks you questions you don't fully understand. Risk tolerance. Time horizon. You guess. You pick the middle option every time. You buy $300 of an index fund, a name with a bunch of letters you can't pronounce out loud. You press confirm. Nothing happens. No sound. No message telling you you've made a good decision. Just a number that used to say $612, now saying $312 in one place and $300 in another place, you can't touch without a form and a waiting period. You almost feel like you did something wrong. You didn't. You just did something invisible. And invisible is the part nobody warns you about. You expect a beginning to feel like a beginning. This one feels like nothing at all. For the next few weeks, you keep working. Same shift, same coffee, same machine. You set up an automatic transfer, $50 every payday, moving straight into the account before you can spend it on something that feels more real in the moment. You don't tell Wes. You don't tell anyone. It's not a secret exactly. It's just not a story yet. There's nothing to tell. Nobody starts this looking like they're starting anything. That's the truth of it. You don't feel like an investor. You feel like a guy with a coffee habit and a savings account that's $50 lighter every 2 weeks. The feeling doesn't arrive with the decision. It arrives years later, if it arrives at all. You go back to the line that night. The bottles keep moving. The noise keeps changing pitch. And somewhere in an account you can barely picture, $300 sits inside a fund that doesn't know your name, doesn't know your shift schedule, doesn't know anything about you at all. It doesn't need to. That's the part that will take you years to understand. 3 years in, and the coffee still costs $4.75. That part hasn't changed. Almost everything else has, just quietly enough that you didn't notice until now. Your account isn't $300 anymore. It's $11,200. You didn't win anything to get there. You just kept moving $50, then $75, then $100, every payday, without asking permission from your mood that week. One Tuesday morning, before your shift, you check the app out of habit more than curiosity. There's a line you've never paid attention to before. Dividend received, $4.11. You laugh once, not because it's funny, because it's small enough to be a joke and real enough not to be. $4.11. Almost exactly what the coffee costs. You almost spent it on the coffee, just to prove to yourself it was real. Your thumb's already moving toward the machine's app before you catch it. Instead, you let it reinvest. You sit with that for a second longer than you mean to. You didn't work for it. You didn't stand in line for it. You didn't listen to a supervisor explain quota numbers for it. You slept. The money showed up anyway. This is the part nobody tells you, because there's nothing dramatic to tell. $4 doesn't buy a story. It just buys a coffee. But it's the first time in your life that something that isn't your labor has paid for something you needed. Your phone bill is $68 a month. In November, the dividends across the year add up to just over that. You don't announce it to anyone. You just notice quietly, standing in your kitchen, that one bill this year got paid by a fund with a name you still can't pronounce right. Wes gets a truck that month. Brand new, the kind with the chrome that catches light in the parking lot. Everybody walks over during break to look at it. He stands next to it with his arms crossed like he's guarding something. You walk over too. You say it looks good. It does. Later in the break room, you hear him on the phone, low voice. Something about the payment being higher than he expected, but it's fine, it's handled. You don't say anything. You go back to your locker and grab your gloves. You still drive the same car you drove at 23. It has a sound in the door now, a small rattle when you hit a bump. You've been meaning to fix it. You haven't. Your account will cross 14,000 by the end of the year. Nobody at the plant knows the number. Nobody asks. There's no version of this conversation that fits into a break room built for talking about trucks. Money doesn't change who you are. It changes which choices are already sitting on the table, waiting for you to notice them. You go home that night, same as always. You make dinner. You check the account one more time before bed, not out of worry this time, out of something closer to curiosity. The market has been calm for a while now. Steady, upward, easy to trust. That won't last. Nothing that calm ever does. The drop starts on a Monday. You don't feel it right away. You never do. By Wednesday, your account is down 8%. By the following week, it's down 14. 14% doesn't sound like much until you translate it into dollars, and then it sounds like a lot. Your balance, which sat at $30,000 for months, now reads $26,600. $4,400. Gone. On paper anyway. That's the phrase everyone uses. On paper. It doesn't feel like paper. It feels like something real just left the room. You're standing at the loading dock, coffee in hand, and your thumb hovers over the app. Sell. It's right there. One tap and the bleeding stops, at least the part you can see. You don't tap it. You're not sure why at first. It's not confidence. You don't feel confident. Your chest is tight and your stomach's doing something it usually only does before a shift review. But something in the back of your mind, some sentence you read once and half remembered, says the losses aren't real until you make them real. So you don't make them real. You put the phone back in your pocket. Fear and observation feel almost exactly the same in the chest. Same tightness, same pull toward doing something, anything, just to make the feeling stop. The only difference is what you do next. One of them costs you money. The other one just costs you a bad week. Wes hears about the drop from the news, not from you. He brings it up at lunch, laughing a little too hard. Says he doesn't gamble, and says that's why he keeps his money in a savings account where it's safe. You nod. You don't correct him. His savings account is earning about 6 cents a month. You've done that math before, back when it was your money sitting still. You don't say any of that, you just eat your sandwich. That night, on your automatic transfer date, $75 leaves your checking account and buys shares at the lower price. You didn't do anything brave. You didn't do anything at all, really. The transfer was already scheduled. It doesn't know the market is down. It doesn't check the news first. It just runs. You start to understand something about the account you built. It isn't asking you how you feel before it does its job. 6 weeks later, the market climbs back. Not all the way, not yet, but enough that the number on your screen stops making your stomach turn. The shares you bought during the worst week, the ones that felt like the wrong week to be buying anything, are already worth more than what you paid. You don't celebrate. You just notice. Quietly, the way you noticed the $4.11 3 years ago. Your account will cross $34,000 by the end of the year. Higher than before the drop. You didn't outsmart anything. You didn't time anything. You just didn't move. The market didn't test your strategy. It tested your nervous system. And your nervous system this time held still long enough for the rest of you to catch up. You go home that night, and you don't check the app again until Sunday. Like always. Coffee's still $4.75. Some things don't move at all, even when everything else does. Your supervisor calls you into the office on a Thursday afternoon. Not the break room, the actual office. The one with a door that closes. Her name is Denise. She's run the second floor for 11 years and she doesn't call people in for small things. She offers you the line lead position. More pay, about $9,000 a year before taxes. More hours too. Weekends during peak season. More people are looking to you when something breaks on the floor. 10 years ago, you'd have said yes before she finished the sentence. You ask for a few days to think about it instead. Denise blinked, just slightly, as the question surprised her. People at your level are supposed to want this. More title. More responsibility. More of the thing everyone's been told counts as moving up. Driving home, you catch yourself replaying the sentence twice. You almost turn the truck around to tell Denise you changed your mind. You don't. You go home and open the spreadsheet you've been keeping since you were 26. Simple thing. 2 columns. What the job pays, what the account pays. The raise would land around $600 a month after taxes. Your account, sitting at $91,000 now between the brokerage and the retirement fund at work, paid out just over $500 last month in dividends and interest. Not because you did anything different, because you never touched it. $500 a month for doing nothing versus $600 a month for giving up your weekends. You sit with that math longer than you expect to. You don't take the promotion. You tell Denise you appreciate it, but you're good where you are for now. She doesn't push. She just nods and moves on to the next name on her list. This is the part nobody prepares you for, because it doesn't look like anything is happening. No one throws you a parade for turning down more money. No one even notices, really, except you. You just quietly keep your Saturdays. Wes takes a second job that year, weekends at a hardware store, trying to cover the truck payment and something else you never quite hear the details of. You see him sometimes on a Saturday when you're at the grocery store, and he's still in his hardware store vest, tired in a way that has nothing to do with sleep. You don't feel superior. That's not what this is. You just notice the shape of 2 different weeks, side by side, and you know which one you'd rather be standing in. Money doesn't hand you more choices out of nowhere. It just uncovers the ones that were already sitting there, waiting for you to have the room to consider them. Your account crossed $100,000 that November. You check it on a Sunday morning with your coffee, same $4.75 from the same machine. Though you buy it from a grocery store now, instead of the loading dock, since your shift changed. You don't tell anyone about the number. There's still no room in a Saturday shift conversation for a sentence like that. So, you just keep it, not as a secret, just as something that doesn't need saying yet. That night, you reinvest the dividend like always. Small, automatic, unremarkable. The bigger drop is still a few years out. You don't know that yet. Nobody ever does. This drop is worse. Not because the percentage is bigger, it isn't really. It's worse because the dollars are bigger now, and dollars are what you actually feel. Your account was sitting at $240,000 at its peak. By March, it's down to $198,000. $42,000, gone in a season. More than 4 years of your salary when you started at the plant. You refresh the app 3 times in an hour one night, like watching it will slow it down. It doesn't. It never does. The number just sits there, quieter than you'd expect for something that big. You didn't sleep well that week. You lie there running old math in your head, the kind you haven't done since you were 23. Rent versus groceries kind of math, Except now it's a different question. Was any of this real? Was it luck? Did you just get 14 good years and now the bill's arriving? This is the part where the doubt doesn't sound dramatic. It just sounds quiet. And it shows up at 2 in the morning and it asks you a question you don't have a clean answer for. You call your mother that Sunday for lunch, like you do most weeks. She asks if you're okay. You tell her work's been stressful. That's not a lie. It's just not the whole truth either. Because you don't know how to explain the rest of it to her in a way that doesn't sound like bragging or like panic. And it's honestly both at once. Here's the part that surprises you more than the market drop. You don't quite fit anywhere anymore, and you didn't notice it happening. You don't talk to Wes about money the way you used to, back when neither of you had any, and it was just a shared joke. Wes is still catching up on the truck, still picking up hours at the hardware store. When you mention, carefully, that the market's been rough, he laughs and says, that's why he keeps his money where he can see it. You used to find that funny. Now it just makes the space between you a little wider, and neither of you says so. But you don't belong anywhere else either. You're not at the dinner parties where people talk about tax brackets and rental properties. You've never been in that room. You just have a number in an app that neither the break room nor that other room would know what to do with. This is a specific kind of alone that nobody warns you about. Not the loneliness of the top, the kind people write about, the boardroom with no name on the door. This is smaller and stranger. It's the loneliness of the middle, where you've gone far enough that the old room doesn't fit anymore, but not far enough to have found a new one. You keep the transfer running anyway. Same amount, same day, same fund. The account doesn't ask how you're feeling about belonging. It just does its job. 8 months later, the market comes back. Not in a straight line, but it comes back. The shares you bought, during the worst of it, the ones bought with a hand that was shaking a little if you're honest, are worth more now than what you paid. Your account closes the year at $261,000. Higher than before the drop started. Fear and observation still feel the same in the chest. You knew that already from years ago. What you learn this time is that the feeling doesn't go away just because you've done this before. It just gets a little more familiar. Familiar enough that you can sit inside it without reaching for the sell button. You buy your coffee that Monday morning, same machine, new store, same $4.75. It's the one thing in your life that hasn't asked to be renegotiated in 14 years. The spreadsheet is open at 11:46 on a Thursday night. You didn't mean to stay up this late, you just wanted to check the year-end numbers before bed. Your salary this year, after 18 years at the plant and 2 promotions you did say yes to, is $62,000. After taxes, after insurance, after the retirement contribution, your take-home comes out to a little over $3,400 a month. Your investment accounts, the brokerage, and the retirement fund combined paid out $68,200 this year. Dividends. Interest. Realized gains from a fund you rebalanced in the spring. Some of it is cash, some of it was reinvested before you ever touched it. You read the number once. Then you check the formulas, because you don't fully trust a number that arrives this quietly. The formulas are right. Your hand is still on the mouse. It hasn't moved in almost a minute. For the first time in your life, the money made more money than the job paid you to stand on a line for 40 hours a week. You sit back in your chair. Nothing happens. No music. No phone call. The refrigerator hums in the other room, same as it did last night and the night before that. A truck passes outside. Somewhere down the hall, a pipe knocks against the wall the way it's done since you moved in. This is what the crossing sounds like. Almost nothing at all. You expected a beginning to feel like a beginning 18 years ago, back with the $300 and the coffee machine by the loading dock. It didn't. And this doesn't either. You're starting to understand that the biggest moments in this story were never going to announce themselves. They were always going to arrive disguised as a Thursday. The next morning, your alarm goes off at 5:30, same as always. You get up. You make coffee at home now, not from the machine, but you still know exactly what $4.75 feels like in your hand. Because some habits don't need explaining, they just stay. You drive to the plant. Denise stops you in the hallway and asks if you can cover a double this weekend. Something came up with staffing. 10 years ago, yes would have left your mouth before she finished asking. This time, it takes you 3 seconds to answer. Not because you're annoyed, because you're weighing something new. You could say no now, you know that. The account behind you would keep running either way, keep buying shares, keep paying you whether you show up this weekend or not. You say yes anyway, but it's a different yes than the one you used to give. That old yes came from somewhere close to fear, dressed up in a work shirt. This one comes from somewhere else. You're choosing the shift, not surviving it. The job is still the job. But you're not the same person standing inside it anymore. That night, you buy your coffee at the store on the way home, same as any other Thursday. You don't tell Denise about the spreadsheet. You don't tell Wes. There's still no shape for that sentence in a break room built for talking about overtime and truck payments. You just drink the coffee, standing at your own kitchen counter this time, and you let the number sit there behind you, quiet, running, not asking anything of you at all. The rumor starts near the break room in February. A reorganization, people are saying. Nobody knows exactly what it means yet, but everybody knows the shape of it, because everybody's seen a reorganization before. You've been at the plant 22 years now. You're not worried, not really, not the way you would have been at 26. But you notice the fear in other people's voices, and you remember exactly what that sounds like from the inside, because you used to sound like that too. Wes gets called into the office on a Tuesday. You find out later it wasn't good news. His shift gets cut from 5 days to 3. The truck payment doesn't shrink to match it. He doesn't say much about it at lunch that week, just eats quietly, and you don't push. You don't feel superior. That's not the word for what you feel. It's closer to recognition. You remember being the guy standing at a coffee machine doing math that didn't come out even. You just did that math 22 years ago, instead of this year. You slide him the name of a guy at your bank who helped you set up your first automatic transfer, way back, before either of you had anything worth transferring. You don't make it a lesson. You just mention it, the way you'd mention a good mechanic. He doesn't take you up on it, not yet anyway. Maybe later. You don't push that either. This is the part that surprises you more than the money ever did. Being ahead doesn't feel like winning. It just feels like standing a little further down the road you both started walking at the same time. Your own accounts passed $600,000 combined that spring. You know the number because you check it most Sunday mornings, coffee in hand, same habit you've had for 2 decades now. But the number stopped being the interesting part a while ago. What's interesting now is the question sitting underneath it. You could leave. You've run the math 3 separate ways: conservative, average, and generous, and all 3 hold. The job isn't required anymore. It hasn't been required for a few years, if you're honest. You don't leave. Not because you're scared to. Because you're not sure yet what you'd do with a Tuesday that didn't have a shift in it. 22 years is a long time to build a life around showing up somewhere. You're not ready to find out what's underneath that yet. Freedom doesn't hand you an answer. It just hands you the question, and then it waits to see what you do with the time. You start spending an hour on Thursday evenings helping a 19-year-old on the second shift named Marisol understand her new retirement account paperwork. Nobody asked you to. She mentioned she didn't understand the match percentage, and you just started explaining it the way somebody should have explained it to you at 23, if anybody had known to. You don't tell her what to do with her money. You just tell her what the numbers mean. What happens if she waits 5 years to start versus starting this month? She writes some of it down. You don't know if she'll do anything with it. That was never really the point. The reorganization passes. Wes keeps his job, just fewer days of it. Life at the plant goes back to something close to normal, the way it always does, eventually. You still buy your coffee most mornings, $4.75 give or take at whichever store is on the way. It's outlasted 2 market crashes, 1 promotion you turned down, and 22 years of the same 5 a.m. alarm. Some things don't ask to be renegotiated. You've stopped expecting them to. Marisol comes to find you on a Thursday, same night as always, except this time she's not asking about paperwork. She's 25 now. She tells you her account crossed $40,000 last week. She sounds a little embarrassed saying the number out loud, the way you were embarrassed saying anything about money for the first 10 years of doing this. You tell her that's not a small number. She doesn't believe you yet. That's fine. You didn't believe it either, back when it was $612 sitting still in a savings account, and you couldn't stop looking at it. You're 51 now. 28 years at the plant, though you're on the floor less than you used to be. Denise retired last spring. The new supervisor asks your opinion on things now, the way people used to ask Denise's. Your accounts, combined, sit somewhere past $900,000. You don't check the exact figure every Sunday anymore. Some weeks you forget for 10 days at a stretch. That would have been unthinkable at 23 when you refreshed the app like it might change its answer if you asked it enough times. This is the part nobody tells you about arriving somewhere. You stop needing to check. Not because you stopped caring, because the checking was never really about the number. It was about needing proof that the thing was real. Eventually the thing gets so real it doesn't need proving anymore. Wes retired last year too, a little earlier than planned, on the back of a pension and a house that's finally paid off. He stopped by the plant a few weeks ago to see some old faces. He looked good, rested in a way you hadn't seen on him in years. You didn't compare notes on money. You never really did that, the two of you, not once in 28 years. You just asked about his grandkids and he asked about your knees, and that was the whole conversation, and it was enough. You still buy the coffee. $4.75, though the machine by the loading dock got replaced twice since you started, and the price crept up $1 somewhere along the way without you noticing exactly when. Discipline compounds the same way money does. Nobody tells you that part either. The habit of not reacting, the habit of showing up quietly and consistently, the habit of turning down the loud thing for the steady thing. 28 years of that doesn't just build an account. It builds the person who is capable of building the account in the first place. That's the part that was never on the spreadsheet, and it's worth more than anything that was. You think some nights about the version of yourself standing at that coffee machine at 23, in his work boots, guessing at questions about risk tolerance he didn't understand yet. You don't feel far from him. You just feel like you kept walking, and he didn't know yet how far the road went, and neither do you, honestly, about what's still ahead. Marisol asks you that same Thursday what she should do next. You tell her the only thing you've ever really known to be true. Keep the transfer running. Don't check it out of fear. Check it out of curiosity, if you have to check it at all. That's the whole answer. It always was. Somewhere at that same plant, right now, there's a 23-year-old you've never met, standing at a coffee machine that costs $1 more than it used to, staring at a banking app on a break at 11:40 at night. He doesn't feel like he's starting anything. He just feels tired of watching a number sit still. His thumb is hovering over the button. Somewhere, that 23-year-old is still deciding whether to press confirm. You already know what happens after that.